As Volodymyr Zelensky solves Ukraine's growing manpower crisis on the battlefield, is Vladimir Putin now confronting an entirely different kind of pressure? After relying heavily on Soviet-era tanks and aging equipment, Russia's war machine is increasingly being tested by a growing shortage of manpower. To counter this, reports suggest Moscow is offering aggressive recruitment incentives, including debt forgiveness and cash bonuses reaching as high as $80,000 to attract new soldiers. But is Russia's recruitment model beginning to crack despite these unusually attractive financial and social incentives? With the war in Ukraine showing no signs of ending, Russia is reportedly facing a growing challenge in maintaining troop recruitment levels. Russia is said to be offering substantial financial incentives in an effort to attract new soldiers into its armed forces. Advertisements across the country reportedly promise signing bonuses of around $80,000 for individuals who enlist in military service. Some recruits are also allegedly being offered debt relief packages worth up to $140,000 as part of enlistment incentives. These recruitment campaigns are being widely distributed through billboards and social media platforms, targeting primarily young men across the country. Despite these offers, recruitment is reportedly down by around 20% in the first quarter of 2026, according to cited assessments. Analysts told CNN that recruitment has continued to struggle even as financial incentives and enlistment bonuses have increased significantly. Traditionally, the Kremlin has relied on its population size and industrial base to sustain a prolonged war of attrition. However, experts say that strategy is now being tested by sustained battlefield losses and growing long-term economic pressure. For now, Russia has reportedly been relying on multiple manpower sources, including former prisoners and foreign recruits. This comes as estimates suggest that hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded since the start of the conflict. The resulting manpower shortages are also said to be pushing up wages and contributing to rising domestic inflation. Despite high pay offers, reports indicate that many potential recruits remain reluctant due to harsh frontline conditions. Allegations have emerged regarding poor treatment of soldiers and pressure to accept high-risk combat assignments. As Russia continues to grapple with a manpower crisis, President Vladimir Putin is facing yet another growing battlefield and domestic challenge. Russia's vast Cold War-era tank reserves are reportedly approaching critical depletion, according to recent assessments of military storage facilities. Satellite imagery suggests that around 2,088 tanks remain in storage across multiple depots throughout the country. These stockpiles reportedly include a mix of older models such as T-54, T-55, T-60TO, T-64, T-70TWO, and T-80 variants. Analysts say many of these vehicles are now in poor condition after spending years exposed to outdoor storage and limited maintenance. The 904th storage base has reportedly become an important transit hub, with tanks being moved out toward frontline units as losses continue. Russia entered the war with an estimated stock of over 20,000 Soviet-era main battle tanks, forming the backbone of its early armored capability. However, a significant portion of these vehicles had already been scrapped or sold off in previous decades, steadily reducing the size of usable reserves. Russian armored forces have also suffered heavy losses due to the widespread use of modern anti-tank weapons deployed by Ukraine. In the early stages of the war, large numbers of tanks were reportedly destroyed or captured during intense frontline engagements. In response, Russia has increased domestic tank production to around 280 to 300 units per year to help replenish battlefield losses. This marks a notable rise compared to pre-war output, but it still remains far below Soviet-era industrial capacity. Analysts note that the Soviet Union once produced up to 4,000 tanks annually at the height of the Cold War. Current production levels are still considered insufficient to fully replace ongoing combat losses and expanding frontline requirements. With shortages expected to worsen, analysts say Moscow may increasingly look abroad for additional supply and alternative procurement options. North Korea has emerged as a potential source of armored vehicles and military equipment, according to recent defense assessments. The Chonma-20 tank is reported to offer capabilities that could be broadly comparable to more modern Russian designs, based on available open-source analyses. Pyongyang is also believed to hold large stockpiles of older T-54 and T-62 tanks, which could potentially be transferred or refurbished for external use. However, Experts caution that the scale and long-term sustainability of North Korea's tank production capacity remain uncertain and difficult to verify. Russia's long-term armor strategy is reportedly focused on expanding T-90 production to thousands of units over the next decade. Analysts say bridging the gap between current losses and future production will likely require external support, even as Volodymyr Zelensky continues to address Ukraine's own troop and manpower shortages. Ukraine's president has announced sweeping changes to military service rules and compensation structures, aimed at strengthening morale and improving retention within the armed forces. Volodymyr Zelensky said the reforms were developed after extensive consultations with senior military commanders and top government officials. The plan includes a record increase in pay for infantry soldiers, designed to better reflect frontline risks and improve recruitment in critical combat units. Additional combat bonuses are also being introduced, offering extra financial incentives for troops engaged in high-intensity operations. Fixed-term service contracts will be introduced for soldiers, providing clearer timelines and more structured career pathways within the military. A 6-month exemption from mobilization will be granted to soldiers who successfully complete their service contracts, as part of efforts to encourage re-enlistment and stability. Rules governing transfers between military units will be eased, allowing for greater flexibility and faster reallocation of personnel where they are most needed. Procedures for soldiers seeking to return to service after going absent without leave have also been simplified, aiming to bring experienced personnel back into active duty more efficiently. The defense minister said Ukraine needs a military service model built on respect, fairness, and clear rules, as part of wider efforts to reform the armed forces. Volodymyr Zelensky's government hopes the changes will improve recruitment, retention, and overall morale across the country's military ranks. A key part of the strategy includes expanding the recruitment of foreign fighters to support overstretched frontline units. Mikhailo Fedorov said Ukraine aims to fill around 30 to 50% of infantry and assault roles with foreign volunteers. Officials believe foreign volunteers could help ease pressure on domestic recruitment efforts, which have struggled under sustained wartime demands. The reforms come as Ukraine continues to face a chronic manpower shortage after years of ongoing conflict and battlefield losses. Many soldiers are reported to have spent years on the front lines without a clear pathway to demobilization or formal discharge. Officials also say a large number of troops are now exhausted after more than 3 years of intense and continuous combat operations. Newly mobilized soldiers have often been described as less motivated, particularly in high-risk infantry roles where pressure and casualties remain highest.